Thank you so much for staying tuned. Right now, we're taking a look at the renewed sanction imposed on Iran by the U.S. Implication in the Middle East. Iranian leaders and Iranians, they are talking tough. What do you think will be the outcome of this renewed sanctions? With me here in the studio, I have, one-time chairman of a local government, and of course, one-time deputy chairman also, a national politician, political analyst when it comes to international and local affairs is well grounded. Johnny, welcome. Should I call you barrister now because you're a legal practitioner? I wonder why you're not practicing, but Honorable Desmond Ugbo. Welcome to the show, sir. I appreciate your coming. All right, now you've seen these two guys, right? As in, I like to brand them Democrats and Republicans. You get to see the reason why. Just stay tuned and just keep watching. The one on white, yes, it's Williams Owaifo, a political analyst. We talk about analysis on local and international politics is well grounded. Williams, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Wilson.
You coming. All right. Pleasure. I'm sitting very close to Williams, a Cyril Okumboa, an environmentalist, a political analyst, local and international politics. He is well grounded. Welcome to the show, Cyril.
Thank you, Wilson, for having me.
Extend my handshake to Cyril. No, yes. Both of you don't see eye to eye when it comes to Republican and Democratic talk.
Clear that with our difference in the politics, we are good friends.
Okay.
In the ideology.
Yes. Different ideology. All right. Here we are. U.S. and Iran. They are at each other's throat. Or will I say U.S. is at the throat of Iran. But Iran said, look, you just can't strangle me. You just can't drown me. I'm going to revert what you are imposing on us, sanction, after the agreement we had with the predecessor. Honorable.
Well, thank you very much. You see, having an agreement with a government, what they call bilateral relationship, and it appears that it was the predecessor, which is Barack Obama, that had such an agreement, which is not too new to the United States of America in history, that the essence of sanction should be what will inform your reactions to it. First and foremost, why the sanction? Why did a country need to sanction a fellow country? And what is the importance of such sanction? And what will be the benefits of such sanction for the citizens? Is what we should look at. That when Donald Trump came, there was this apprehension that he's going to repeal some of those sections of those agreements. And that gave birth to the plans by Donald Trump to ensure that there is a cordial relationship between Iran and the United States of America. But it wasn't synchronized as it was proposed. The reason being that, yes, the Iranian government, as we have known them in history, they have this tacit connivance with Islamic states across the world. They have this tacit arrangement with pockets of Islamic movements across the world. Even in Nigeria, yes, they are fingered to have had that relationship with these the Shiites. A situation where they are even threatening that they will release Ibrahim Ezazaki. All these are certain reasons. How on earth can a government that came on board to protect the lives and property of a citizen now be dabbling into an affair that has to do with the extermination of races across the world? And that informed the reason why the United States of America have to reimpose this sanction to ensure that these people are whipped into line. What I mean whipped into line now, as to accept the new order of the international community where there will be peace and harmony across the globe. Today, we are seeing the United States of America under Donald Trump reimposing those sanctions and even making it more stringent, what they would call total sanction, or total ban on certain areas of the international relationship.
Total ban.
Yeah.
I'll come back to you on that. Williams, what's your angle on this? Because you talked about the activities of Iran and a connection with pockets of some dangerous terrorist group.
Yes, Iranians or the Iranian government have always been bad actors in that region of the world. It didn't start today. It didn't start in Donald Trump's era. It didn't start in Obama's era. They've always done that. And it was in that light that the Barack Obama administration thought it wise to meet with other leaders and decide on what to do with Iran. Because as at that time, they were on this jet speed to acquiring their nuclear weapons. They already had everything figured out. So, and in spite of the sanctions that were on them, they kept on going. These guys they have a very tough skin when it comes to sanctions. No matter how much you sanction Iran, they go about their activities. They don't care whose ox is being gored whilst they go about their nefarious activities. So the Barack Obama administration thought it wise that, look, these guys will always be dissidents. Let us call them to the negotiation table, look for a way to wrap them in. The agreement then was called the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which ensured that Iran steered clear of their uranium enrichment for a number of years, which would give the US and other nations time to figure out what to do with them. At least whilst they are trying to figure out what to do with them, let Iran stay put where they are and not do further uranium enrichment. And that plan, that JCPOA was reached by 15 countries, and it was working well. The Iranians had kept to their own side of the bargain, according to the inspectors that were inspecting the facilities where this uranium enrichment was being done. And Donald Trump made it a policy that everything Obama stands for, and he always said it during the campaign trail, that he was going to rail against every one of them, including the Iranian deal. So no matter what Obama did, according to from his body language, his base wants him to rail against Obama. So anything Obama stood for, anything that has to do with Obama's legacy, he had to tear it up. So even if all these other nations had said, look, Iran is living by the tenets of our agreement, at least let us give them that time. Let's keep working on this deal. We agree that this deal is flawed. This agreement has some loopholes, but we'll keep trying to fix them. But then Donald Trump came on the scene and felt, look, there's nothing my predecessor has done that makes sense. I have to destroy this deal. In spite of the interventions by different world leaders, most of them went to the White House to discuss with him. Look, sir, we've all agreed that these guys, at least thus far, they've been living by, or they've been abiding by the tenets of this agreement. Give this deal a chance to stand. But he said no, that he's going to tear it up. And here we are today.
And here we are today, tearing up the legacies by former President Barack Obama. Cyril, do you have anything different to say from what you just said?
Well, I think if anything, we can agree on one point, which is basically the fact that Iran is a renowned state sponsor of terrorism, and they have their fingers across the region, especially. I'm not even trying to link them to the outer world. All right, but I will have you know that Iran and the U.S. enjoyed a special relationship back when the Shah was in power, up until his ouster and the consequent emergence of the Ayatollah Khomeini dynasty, or hegemony, if you like, because now they now run a monarchy. He's the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic. Why the politicians just come and go, he remains there. But I'll have you know that, first of all, why is Iran on the table? They are not the only players in the region. There are other important players in the region that are big on the oil market too, and they can have their own influence within the regional international community. But they are not dissidents like Iran. That brings to mind the other neighbors in the region. You have Saudi Arabia, you have the other Gulf states, you have Qatar, you have the United Arab Emirates, you have Jordan. You know, most of these are living quite amicably. But Iran has always stood for the ideas of the revolution that was born, that brought forth the Ayatollah Khomeini hegemony, And since that time, they've always wanted to impose their ideas and influence across the region. For example, being both Muslim countries, although they practice different versions of Islam, the Iranian Republic principally Shia Muslims, while the others are Sunnis. But I believe that reading the same Quran is good grounds for them to come to the table and, you know, and iron out disagreements. Whilst other members of the region appear to be friendly with the U.S., on the contrary, Iran is not. Now, I think that we should look at the far-reaching issues necessitating this tension across the region. First of all, the hostility of the Iranian state against the State of Israel is one of the factors. As a matter of fact, this regime always, in their parliament, when you have the elites, before cameras, begin to chant death to America. In fact, their one and most important mission is to obliterate the State of Israel. If they have their way, they like to wipe it off the map. That's some hostility, all right? Don't forget that the U.S. is an ally, has been an ally of the State of Israel. A bit of those changed when Barack Obama came to power. The relationship between the U.S. and Israel so depreciated to the extent that the Prime Minister then, Benjamin Netanyahu, had to travel to the U.S. to address Congress when John Bonner was Speaker without stopping over at the White House. He went to the Capitol Hill, but he didn't go to the White House to meet Obama formally. Now, as bad as that was, it was just a reflection of how deep or how deep-seated the disagreements or the conflict between Israel and the U.S. had been. Now, President Obama, Donald Trump came on board. He had his base, which are basically the evangelicals,
All right.
which always favor good dealings with Israel. And besides, the fact that, let me just go back, let me leave the background and go to the faults.
Yeah, just anchor.
With the JCPOA.
Yeah.
The JCPOA was an agreement that was reached by the Barack Obama-led administration of the U.S. and other European states, and they deliberately put clauses that will allow Iran, that will give Iran leverage to enrich uranium.
What is that?
And with that, they become a danger.
Okay.
So that is the document is in public domain, and Donald Trump criticized it.
Okay.
You would agree with me that when Emmanuel Macron, the president of the French president, came to the United States to meet with Donald Trump, he pleaded with him in their joint conference and his address to Congress, admitted that yes, we know that certain sections of this agreement is faulty. Let us work together to repair these clauses.
Okay.
Instead of just nixing the entire deal.
All right.
But you also remember the lobbying effect by Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. Before then, the year before, he had addressed the United Nations, and he has shown them reports that they had,
yes,
that while the GCPOA was in action, Iran was
that.
busy enriching uranium.
We'll come to that. We'll come to that. Now, he talked about the 40 agreement. Could you take it up
Very
on that?
faulty. Very faulty. Because one, I think under Obama had a soft spot for the Muslim.
Well said.
And that was the reason why they went ahead enriching themselves, preparing more grants than ever.
Is it Iran for them or the Muslims?
You can't take it, you can't exonerate Iran from
Because we have
Muslim.
other Muslim nations
But
in that same region, but
they
Iran
are
was
key
like specific.
extremists. Their extremism has even tied them with terrorism across the globe. You know, when you are talking about Muslim, there are several kinds of Muslim.
So I'd like you to say Iran because you know we have Shiite, we have Sunni, they are all Muslims. So if you say Muslim, you're generalizing the particular religion. So just focus on the Iranian country. I think that will clarify so many issues.
Listen carefully. At the beginning, I said because Barack Obama had soft spot for the Muslim as a religion, and that is the reason why, yes, even when he was entering into a deal with the Iranian government, are those clauses that Donald Trump now found not assistive, that he found so deductive in the whole arrangement, is because Barack Obama has a soft spot for Muslims. If you watch carefully all that he did, there were accusations that he appears to please the Muslim more than the Christian. But today, Donald Trump is faulting those grants that seems to now put the American citizen in danger. If you read INT'L, if you study the agreement properly, you deduce the fact that yes, there are certain grounds that makes Iran to be superpower. And as we speak, they have enriched themselves. They've built more than ever recorded in the history of acquisition of nuclear power. And this were done under this period where there is this agreement that needed to be observed to ensure that it doesn't deteriorate to a situation where the whole world become what they call economic warfare. As we speak, the globe is witnessing economic warfare between the United States of America and the Iranian government. So the best bet for Donald Trump to do is to ensure that those clauses are repealed and rewritten. And when there are no meeting points, the best bet is to ensure that they place more sanction to make it total in the area of transportation, in the banking sector, and the oil. These are the mainstay of the Iran government. Yes, there are services that the United States of America render to Iran, in form of the military, in form of their machinery, even ammunitions, and all that. So, all things being equal, it is a clear understanding that if the United States of America did not take the action it's taking now, as you can see, that other leaders of the world are keeping mute to it.
All right, they are keeping mute to it because of U.S. stand.
Yes.
Now, he talked about a religion. He talked about Iran because he just can't divorce it from that religion. Would you want to still remain in your position that Donald Trump was so harsh in religion of what his predecessor has already put on the ground for the world in that region to go smoothly?
Yes, I still feel everything Donald Trump does is based on antagonizing everything Obama stood for. However way anyone would wish to see it, whether you feel Obama was an apologist of a certain religion, but you must come to the true fact that it wasn't just the Obama administration that penned down this deal. 15 nations came together, powerful nations for that matter, to say, look, we've been heaping sanctions on these guys, and they are still going about their uranium enrichment. They are going to get there anytime soon. How do we slow them down? Okay, Iran, come to the table. This and this, okay, by so number of years, if you would have kept your uranium enrichment at a certain level where you would not be at that industrial scale, then you can then go ahead with your nuclear program. But for now, slow it down. We are going to have inspectors monitor the progress of your uranium enrichment, of which these 15 nations agreed that all this while, whilst that deal was on, Iran kept their side of the bargain. The IAEA team that went there all those times said that Iran kept their own side of the bargain. So how come it is Trump who just came in, who has made a vow, lest we forget, during all of his campaign rallies, that he was going to destroy everything Obama stood for? So even if Obama did anything right, it had to be bad. Even the Paris Accord that was reached before he came to power, that is working hard to stem global warming, he nixed it the minute he came into office. And as it stands now, only America and Nicaragua, a third world country, are the nations outside that deal. I just want to paint a picture to you how vindictive this man got when he ascended power. So everything Obama stood for was wrong, and he had to nix it. Okay, now other world leaders are saying, okay, we agree that some parts of this deal is faulty. Why don't we fix it? No, he wants to tear it up because it has Obama somewhere behind it.
All right.
He doesn't want that legacy.
All right, now, sir, would you want to agree that this is like a thing between Obama and Donald Trump? It's not about the agreement itself.
Well, irrespective of the, with due respect to my friend, irrespective of his sentiments, as it were, I would like to state that if you have a working agreement, it would be unthinkable or unreasonable for anybody at any level of government to want to come to it. The fact that some of these, especially the JCPOA, is being torn down is just a reflection on Obama's foreign policy. As a matter of fact, most of Obama's foreign policy generally were so I don't know, they came out so badly. He had to admit that one of the worst foreign policy mistakes he made in his time was the elimination of what you call him now?
Gaddafi.
Muammar Gaddafi. And of course, you know how far it has gone to destabilize the region. That said, I think it only makes sense that Donald Trump decides to renege from the agreement because the clauses were, as a matter of fact, I believe they were deliberately concocted to align with Iran to ensure that they are able to continue their enrichment of uranium and achieve the status of a nuclear power.
But from what he said, Iran kept to the onset of the bargain.
No.
Not all the areas.
That is what they say. That is what they say.
Remember,
now,
15 nations.
the IAEA officials were always giving notice. They could not just walk into Iran and go to those facilities.
To inspect.
They had to be given notice of up to a month. About 27 or 29 days notice. So why? Why did they even need such lengthy notice? Because they had to clean up. While the JCPOA was on, Iran was busy enriching uranium off-site. He had to take the Prime Minister of Israel to say, come, don't close your eyes to this thing. This is where they have reached so far, because they had spies within the Iranian ranks who could tell them these people were developing and enriching uranium real time. And their target was to achieve, as a matter of fact, they wanted to be able to arm their warheads with nuclear weapons. And once they can do that, where would they turn to? They will target the U.S. ally, one of the strongest allies of the U.S. in the region, the state of Israel, which they have demonstrated open hostility for. So I think going forward, for the stability of the region, it would be a mistake to allow Iran achieve such status, because the region already has a lot of troubles in its hands. Otherwise, why you should expect that as a fellow Muslim country that the Saudis would be solidarizing with Iran, but it's not the case, because Iran is just pure trouble in the region. As a matter of fact, to also demonstrate Obama's foreign policy weakness, especially the sentiments with which he dealt with Iran in the region, in his days of office, towards the tail end of his administration. Can you believe that the Iranian gunboats will come and start cycling around U.S. naval ships in the Gulf? On a normal day, that's hostility, because there should be a certain distance. If they have that presence in the waters, it's the territory that they've been ceded to.
Just the way Russian
planes. He kept allowing them. Iran was not just, they didn't want to attack U.S. ships. They wanted to show their muscles in the region. Don't forget that they continually, perpetually carry out war games every year and trying to provoke their neighbors to war. As a matter of fact, Iran is a war-mongering regime who doesn't care about its own citizens. Instead, they are thinking of how to etch their ideas, their radical ideas, and influence influence and spread their influence across the region.
All right.
For example, sir.
All right.
For example, just recently, they threatened to block the Strait of Hormuz, and we all know that 1/3 of the world's oil supplies has to pass through the strait.
Yeah.
Of course, it's in their territory, but it was just mere rhetoric. If you say they wanted to demonstrate that they were powerful, why didn't you go and block the strait?
Okay.
Because U.S. sounded the warning. If you go near the Strait of Hormuz, total chaos.
Just like they sounded warning to Kim Jong-un, and the Kim kept on crossing the red line.
Let him out.
There's no way Kim Jong-un would have been able to match U.S. nuclear arsenal.
Okay.
The point is that the Iranians they don't want peace. As a matter of fact, they want to promote war. If you allow them today, where they can, they want to attack Israel, they want to attack the U.S.
Troublesome.
Look at their flags. You saw you played your PD played a video of protest.
Okay.
burning
okay.
down U.S. flags and all
and the
that.
rest of
There is
them.
nothing peaceful about
Good.
the Iranian regime. It's a warmongering regime, and they must be stopped.
Okay.
Now,
Hold on.
It's going to grind the economy to a halt.
Hold on.
They've suffered enough, but it appears that they've not learned. I want to see how they will navigate.
All right. Now, from what he said, his anchoring statement that the sanctions this time around will ground their economy is going to be worse than before. But
Definitely. It's a
think
total
of it.
clampdown.
15 countries, not just ordinary countries. 15 mentally sound countries. 15 countries with strong international tie. They went through that agreement and they didn't fault Iran for reneging on the agreement.
But let me tell you.
So could it be that Donald, in this aspect, is totally wrong or so hasty to rush to the conclusion about what he feels that the Iranians are doing?
Not at all. Definitely, you would deduce the fact that the major countries of the world are competing with U.S., not other countries. They want it done for United States of America. The reason why they are in that connivance.
Or use the word connivance.
Yeah. Because firstly, the United States of America has demonstrated that they are the world lord. And every other country that tends to now raise their ugly head in challenge to the United States of America, there will be a tacit connivance of some other pockets of countries to see to how their power is and where their power lies. Instead, if there is this collective agreement that we must consign terrorism into the dustbin of history and to together pursue those who have been fingered in sponsorship of these pockets of Islamic movements across the world, then you will find out that, yes, there is that togetherness in this concerted effort to ensure that those who have come out in terms of amassing of these dangerous weapons, then this what Iran is doing by way of increasing their numbers of uranium with a view to now ensuring that if any country raises up their head, they are dead just to exterminate them. They would have come out together to say, look, what Donald Trump is saying, it is a fact. We are looking for a global peace, a situation where the world will be at peace. If it is not in total peace, there will be a relative peace across the globe. I think what is happening now is that, yes, before you know it, the United States of America will now start lobbying for support to ensure that there will be more voices to curtail the SSEs of Iran and those collaborators. All these unseen collaborators are there just to ensure that, yes, they will keep weakening the strength of the United States over every other countries. Not that they are happy that what the Iran is doing is normal. Iran and every other countries that are known for violence across the globe are happy that, yes, they are looking for avenue to call the United States of America to order. The other day you saw Iraq, you saw South Korea waxing stronger in the face of trying to consign this violence to history. But my own submission here is that Donald Trump, what he has done, is not entirely wrong. The interest, the safety of the citizen of America, and indeed other countries of the world, is topmost in his agenda. But the way and manner he's going about it is the question.
All right. The way and manner he's going about it. Take it up from there.
Yeah, lest we forget, I liked the question you raised. 15 sound nations. I mean, America has been a world leader for decades now, and Iran doesn't just stand as a threat to the U.S. They are a threat to the entire world. It was on the backdrop of this that these nations came together. That, look, we have to stop these guys somehow. We've heard of cases where dissidents we are called to come and take, for example, a man who is an armed robber, a killer. A government can even recruit him and say, okay, we are going to weaponize you to protect the city instead of you going about your nefarious activities. I think it was in that line they said, look, Iran, you are going to go about your nuclear program, but slow it down for now. I think the wisdom in that is to figure out what to do with these guys, because they kept on going.
For how many years would they slow it down?
Yes, at least
and don't forget also, he talked about a report presented to American president by the Israelis.
Yes.
He raised the fine and showed to the world this was their finding.
Exactly.
They cite how far they have gone, and hence he chose to take a stand.
Yes. I actually saw that on the news. And let's not forget that Iran and Israel, they've been sworn enemies for a long time. And each of them will come up with just anything to get at each other's throats. Like you said, these 15 nations came together. And these guys, even when Trump came to power, I remember Emmanuel Macron going to the White House. And he told President Trump, look, we understand that there are flaws in this deal. Give it time. What areas of this deal can be harnessed? What can be worked on? At least thus far, these guys have been good actors, even if we know that they are state sponsors of terrorism. But at least thus far, since this deal has been on, they've tried their best to be in their best behavior. Why don't we? Because now the entire region is already in chaos, because Iran is already threatening fire and brimstone. And whether or not you like it, no matter how powerful America thinks she is, when you go out to attack a nation like that, you have to also go with the UN guidelines, because you can't just attack a nation. Now they've meted out sanctions on Iran, which is going to make life for the average Iranian very hard. So that sanctions doesn't just affect the Iranian government, it's going to trickle down to the citizens of that country, whether or not they are in support of what their government is doing. But what I am looking at is, there could have been a way to look at this deal if he didn't have this vendetta with Barack Obama and everything Obama stood for. And let's not forget too, that the day Donald Trump declared he was going to run for president, the first thing he said is that he is asking for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States. And my thought is, you are supposed to be a president for all. Right. But you keep pandering to one side and making the other side look like they are evil people. And it's not so.
All right, but people will just disagree with that last statement, talking about shutting down the door against all Muslims. Because
but that was what he said.
We still have Muslims in America.
Yes, but that was what he said.
Fine, okay, fine. Now,
so anything that represents Islam, he has to rail against it.
Now, let me draw a leaf from what Honorable talked about. He said, look, what Donald is doing is not wrong, but is his method, his way of doing it. Cyril.
Well, let me start by reacting, first of all, to the statement about the phrase, the 15 sound nations. These 15 nations are basically members of the European Union. And you know, when it comes to dealing with Europe, I'd rather treat them as one bloc, just one country. All right. And yeah, they were the basic parties, you know, with the United States that came up with the agreements. And sometimes it almost seems as though the European Union has a sinister interest in furthering that deal. For example, the European Union spokeswoman Federica Mogherini has been about saying that, yes, Iran has complied. They have actionable evidence that Iran has stopped nuclear enrichment. But I don't think that was the truth. I think that the European Union, in connivance with the Barack Obama-led regime of America, connived to bamboozle the world.
Connived to bamboozle the world?
Yes, whilst Iran was busy enriching uranium. In fact, even before the JCPOA came into effect, they had said that that the uranium enrichment was for peaceful purposes. They wanted to use it for power and whatever, but it all turned out to be lies. In fact, it was getting out of hand before they had to move. But of course, they moved with sentiment, because their aim is still to ensure that they armed Israel's neighbor against them. No, this thing is about the difference between, in fact, what's causing tension in that region is about the U.S. relationship with the state of Israel and how Iran sees Israel. Recently, Netanyahu went around to visit the president of, the king of Jordan and some other Gulf states. Of course, you know that they also relate very well with Saudi Arabia. How come Israel is doing well with other Gulf nations, but Iran doesn't just want to hear it? The only states where Israel doesn't have a good relationship right now, doesn't enjoy a good relationship, is states that Iran has infiltrated. Lebanon, for example. As a matter of fact, it almost is the Hezbollah that even now holds they run the country now. Who empowers the Hezbollah? In fact, Hezbollah is going to be a political party. And so on and so forth. Back to Palestine. The conflict between Palestine and the state of Israel is also another matter. All right? So the influence of Iran across the nation has been noted. They are known state sponsors of terrorism. Do you notice what happened when the inferno struck at 9/11? The plane that hit the Twin Towers? Celebrations globally from the Muslim nations, of course. I saw camera pictures of Iran. The citizens came to enter the streets. They were celebrating as though they had won the World Cup. Unfortunately, I also remember that in Nigeria,
But still, hold it now. I wouldn't want us to really dive into it because I remember that Saudi Arabia didn't join the celebration.
Yes, that's what
it didn't. So you see that because
I had made that point clear.
All the Muslim nations didn't celebrate. They were all saddened because they were affected.
In Nigeria,
some Muslims also didn't celebrate. Anyway, I wouldn't want us to go into religious inclination right now.
What the implication will look like.
But what I also want you to know is that the same Osama bin Laden that struck the Twin Towers, who trained him? Where was he trained?
All right, gentlemen, Williams, you know what? Just calm down now. I don't want to say this on into religious dimension.
Exactly.
Okay? I'm going to give you for 1 minute each because our time is up. To summarize your point, you've spoken for close to 15 minutes right now from calculations with time. We're working with time. I'm going to start off with you, Honorable. 1 minute each to please summarize.
Thank you very much. What United States of America has done, firstly, is to safeguard the territorial integrity of the American citizens and the economy. Secondly, it is my appeal that United Nations should rise up at this moment.
All right.
Look at the merits of the sanction and to ensure that they nip it in the bud.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable. Williams, briefly.
Yes. I would say that the President of the United States should look at issues dispassionately rather than from a political angle all the time. It's not every time you must score a political point. It's not every time you have to go against. And that's why I loved Senator John McCain of blessed memory so much. He believed in bipartisanship. It doesn't have to be where your party stand. If there is a way you can compromise on some issues, look at it dispassionately, discuss it with your opponents, and then work out a better deal. Not just tearing up the old deal because it belongs to the other party.
Thank you, William. Cyril?
Well, not for a while now that there's been this hostility, institutionalized hostility to the state of Israel. The U.S., former U.S., she's presently there, Nikki Haley, U.S. ambassador to the UN, spoke out against the activities of the UN regarding the state of Israel. That's on the one hand. Then two, if you look at the sanctions on the oil, the maritime and the banking sector, this is basically what drives the Iranian economy. I think that this time they are going to grind to a halt because they already have an economic crisis within. And I believe that when these sanctions begin to take effect, the government would have to be forced to reason.
Thank you.
Otherwise, they would
Thank you. Well, you've heard them. Keep watching. Our responsibility is to report back to you. Bye for now.